I have conversations with so many people nowadays, and we don't know what year it is. It's like we lost a year or a year and a half. It's like, there's like pre-COVID and Lord willing soon to be post-COVID, and hopefully the virus does what every virus in the history of mankind does, and it gets more transmissible and it gets weaker, and then it just becomes part of life, and it seems like it's heading that way, and it should be no shock, and we're acting like it's a shock. But, the bottom line is the whole world's doing its thing, right? And everybody's doing their best, right? They're making decisions, governments and countries and municipalities and then people, and there's all kinds of juice around it and all kinds of politics around it. Yeah. And so I'm like, what do I need? And I started thinking. So I went through a journey where I didn't look inward for where I'm at today. I took my journey since March 9th of 2020. Because March 9th of 2020 is when I came home from an offsite with my executive team. We just made a bunch of decisions. We got a phone call that the entire state of California was sending everybody home. And thankfully, our organization was prepared. And we were prepared for fires or for earthquakes or this or that and the other. And we sent 250 staff home.
Wow.
And they did not come back in the building. I believe it was 550 days later. And then when they did, it was a very short period of time. We had to send them all back home again. And so much happened during that time. And I did so many broadcasts, and I did so many people. And I built training programs, Jimmy. I actually worked harder in the last 2 years than I've worked in my whole career ever.
Wow.
And I'm not 28 anymore like I was when I started this bad boy. So I said, okay, I'm going to try to do this one word. And I took this process, and I went and examined my journey over the last couple of years. And I went through, journals and just things I took notes at. I looked at some of the content that I presented, and I started taking the journey. And I got to say this: I took inventory on the in. Jimmy, it was the strangest season I've ever had in my life, almost unrecognizable, of where I started, where I went, and where I was drifting towards. Then I went up. Okay, all right, God, where you got me going? And during that time, as I was letting down, because I had what's like they call executive flu, I worked so hard to the end of the year, I managed to get the flu, pneumonia, and corona. And I got all three. I missed out on bubonic plague because apparently it wasn't available in San Diego.
God was merciful. Yes.
So I was laid out. And by the way, it was not a fun time. Over the holidays, didn't see my kids. I was quarantining in my own house. And I used that time to look up. I just come off the in. And now I've got the out coming. And so the word for me for the year is fitness. And one of the reasons I've struggled with this, I always like to know the meaning and then be able to make the criteria of making decisions. Fitness by its very nature is measured not in how fast you run a mile or how much weight you lift. It's all about how quick you can recover. Fitness is always measured in a person's ability to recover. When you're really fit and you run a mile, you recover very quickly. When you are not fit and you run a mile, it takes you a long time to recover. And what I had noticed over the course, because I've always been known as this resilient guy, and I noticed that more and more and more, both big and little things, I was taking more time to recover. I've had in-house legal counsel for 26 years. You become successful, you have a lot of money, you have a lot of reach, you get sued all the time. Yeah. I don't sue anybody, but whatever, somebody eats a Danish at a seminar and they sue me for $5 million or whatever else, or they do this. And I'm glad to say in 35 years, never lost a lawsuit. But people do it all the time. They've sued me for the rights to my own name. And all of a sudden, these foolish, incidental lawsuits that come in, they never bothered me at all. And now all of a sudden it really started to bother me. Why would somebody be doing that? I don't understand that. And I would be rotisserizing on this stuff. The normal setbacks you have in business and life. I started to find myself not being there. And what I started to realize, you know what, Buff, you're worn out. You know what, Buff, you've gone very hard. You know what? When in order to serve your customers and your community and your staff, like the whole world was going sideways. I came out week one. Hey, nobody at Buffini Company's losing their job. You're good. Bring that security to your clients. Everyone thought they were losing their job. We're shut down. We're doing this. I went on the ups. I started doing broadcasts. It took me 25 years on stage to reach 3 million people. And I reached 3 million people in 100 days during the lockdowns.
That's amazing.
Well, here's the deal. At some point in time, you start to pay a price for all that.
Oh, yeah.
So what I realized for myself as I went through this, as I was given the blessing of the sickness, right? So God's kind of like, I'm sitting you down on the bench, sit down, shut up, and listen.
Yes.
And the word I got was fitness. And my fitness is all about this. It's mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical fitness to develop my ability to bounce back, to build up my reserves.